All right. Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for our Florida Land Steward webinar on planning for tree planting season. This webinar will be most relevant for private landowners with around 5-10 acres as kind of a general guideline that are looking to plant pine trees. We may talk about other types of trees, but the focus of today's presentation is primarily going to be on planting southern pines on forest properties. Joining me today is Mr. Brian Cobble. My name is Chris Demers. I'm the Extension Program Manager at University of Florida IFAS School of Forest, Fisheries, Geomatics Sciences. I run our Florida Land Steward program, an extension program whose mission is to help private landowners with managing their properties for multiple benefits. Joining me today, I'll get back to that, is Brian Cobble. Mr. Brian Cobble is Region 2 Cooperative Forestry Assistance Coordinator with the Florida Forest Service. He has a broad and extensive experience in forest management. Spent, I think, most of his career assisting private landowners with managing their properties. One of the starts of his career was serving as the Suwannee County forester with the Florida Forest Service, and he spent some time in the private sector, and then came back for a brief stint in public lands, and then is now serving as Region 2 CFA Coordinator with the Florida Forest Service. So great to have him in this position. He also manages his own forest property over near Hawthorne, and so he brings a broad experience and perspectives on this topic. So that's why I wanted to invite him to give this presentation today. I encourage you to participate with us. You can participate via the chat or the question and answer button, whichever one appears on your screen. Feel free to use those. You can type in your questions. Generally, we'll wait to the end of the presentation to answer questions, but I'll be monitoring the chat, and if there's anything that needs addressing for clarification, those types of purposes, we'll interrupt the presentation, and Brian can give an answer or clarification as needed. I want to encourage you at the end of this webinar to share your feedback. I'm going to be sharing a QR code that you can scan and fill out a very short evaluation about today's presentation. And we're really interested in kind of how you might use the information that we're sharing today, specifically kind of on what number of acres you might be applying this kind of information to, or if you have applied information that you've learned in other land steward workshops, webinars, or tours and things. The materials for this particular webinar are available online at that link that's on that page, and I'm going to show you exactly where to find that when you get to our homepage. If you just Google Florida Land Steward, the IFAS Florida Land Steward site will be one of the first that pops up. If you go to our homepage, the last part of that introductory information block on our website, Florida Land Steward events and webinars, those links and materials are available at that link. And just go to 2026, and this webinar and the materials that go with it are right at the top. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording of this presentation will be provided on that page later, hopefully by the end of today or early tomorrow. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Brian. Brian, thanks so much for being with us today, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Chris.
I'll stop sharing.
Okay, again, my name is Brian Cobble. I work with the Florida Forest Service, and I've put together a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to share. Plan now for tree planting season. Chris, can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. My contact information is there. If you have any questions, you do have a meeting chat for the live participants. You can type a message in there. I'm monitoring that meeting chat, and I'll do my best to answer any questions. I will direct you to that chat, and there is a link for this poll. I want to bring it over. If you have a smartphone, you can scan the barcode to the right, or you can go to the meeting chat, and I just posted the response. But the question that I have is, which of these are benefits of planting trees? It's awaiting first audience response. So if you can just give me some general benefits of tree planting, your response you type in to your smartphone or onto the thing will shade. We have shade as a benefit. So we have one response. I'll give us approximately 1 minute for the first question. And I do have several questions. And then we have soil retention as another one. Erosion prevention. There's a lot of benefits. Wildlife benefit, nitrogen fixation, carbon sequestration, potential investment. There are a lot of benefits for planting trees. Okay, we're going to move to the next slide. We've had about a minute. Fruit production, nut production. Okay, what are some of the most important aspects when planning for tree planting projects? If you're watching this recorded at a later date, you will not be able to participate in this poll, but you will be able to do this live. Money, investment, return on investment is a pretty important aspect. Restoring the native ecosystem, where you're trying to get longleaf pine reestablished, is good. The next question, survival rates is good. I just want to get everybody's kind of thoughts on the same page as we move forward with this thing.
Hey, Brian, some folks have one person has listed a couple things in the chat. She said season and site prep.
That's true. That's good, and we'll touch on that. All right, how do you determine the best tree for your site? And this is multiple choice. You know, consulting hardness zones, soil analysis and drainage tests, assessing sunlight and space constraints, considering native versus non-native species, checking local pest and disease resistance, evaluating long-term maintenance needs. I'll give you a hint. All those choices are good choices, so we can use any of them. This is poll everywhere, which is a pretty neat poll, but we're going to move on to the next slide. We're getting lots of good answers popping up. Every time we get an answer, we do see a change, which is, I think, is kind of neat. Okay. I want to lock it, and we're going to move back to the next slide. For initial planning, assessing the sites, plant hardiness zones, forest soil types, historic weather patterns. the previous and or current land use, the project acreage, what type of site preparation is needed, whether that's mechanical site preparation, herbicide, or prescribed fire. There's a lot of different types of site preparation we can use. The tree species selections, the tree density and spacing decisions, and the landowner budget. Each one of those points will be addressed in this webinar today. I thought I would start with the plant hardiness zones. This is tailored for Florida. So our two, it could be anywhere from 8 through 10 for Florida, but for most of the forestry in this area, as I'm going to focus on zones 8 and 9, which are going to be those yellow and tan areas on the map, which includes the whole panhandle, the Big Bend area, and everything from really about Orlando north. From Orlando south, we have a lack of mills and a lack of timber markets. So forestry as an investment will generally be in the northern half of the state. So that's what we're going to focus on today. Once you know that we're in zone 8A, zone 8B, 9, we know which trees grow best in those environments. We know southern yellow pine or southern pine species do well. So this right here will continue. We'll look at our forest soil types. Do we have an area that may flood on occasion? Do we have an area that's sand hill or scrub, upland or mesic flatwoods? Is it wetlands? Is it bottomland hardwoods? What is there? What kind of site are we working with? We have 8 major soil types in Florida. We have water, urban land, and some on this chart. I'm going to factor those out because we know those have been effectively removed from the forestry setting. So red, clay, summy loams, or all these red areas you see. The ultisols, the spotosols are going to be our poorly drained sandy soils, the flatwoods, the peat soils of the northern Everglades, and the shallow lime rock influenced soils. One thing that I want to talk about is this web soil survey. I'm going to bring my screen back over. And there is a link to this in the chat. If you look below the first one, you'll see a web soil survey, so you can go back and check this. This is a U.S. Department of Agriculture ran website. There's a big green button that says Start WSSS, Web Soil Survey. We get a map of the United States, and I just want to show you how it works very quickly. For quick navigation, we can say Florida. Chris is broadcasting this out of Alachua County, so we're just going to zoom into Alachua County, and we'll hit View. And you'll notice this will zoom into Alachua County. We have some tools like an area of interest. I want to zoom into Gainesville, and east of Gainesville, there's a place called Nunes Lake. And as long as we keep our search area less than 100,000 acres, then we can zoom in to that specific area. I'm picking the area north of Nunes Lake where Little Hatchet Creek flows in. And we can click Soil Map. For these specific soil types, we have some areas such as the Nunes Lake and the watershed, Little Hatchet Creek flowing into it. For this area, we're not going to look at that area, but we can check on like Candler fine sand, and we can look at our Soil Data Explorer. And we do have different suitabilities, limiting ratings. We have vegetative productivity, and we can look at forest productivity, via tree site index or cubic feet per acre. I'm going to look at vegetative productivity, and just for a sample, we're going to type in forest land productivity. We could have also did it by site index base. Canter fine sand, I'm just picking this out for an example. For this specific soil type, the survey will tell us some of our trees that are native that grow best on that particular soil type. Blue jack oak, longleaf pine, sand pine, shrub live oak, slash pine, South Forest slash pine, turkey oak. And then we'll tell us our cubic feet of wood per acre. So we know north of the lake, it's sort of a wetland area. Longleaf does well at 57 cubic feet per acre per year, site index of 60. Sand pine is actually better, but if we look at slash pine, the ones that have these, South Forest slash pine, sand pine, longleaf, these would be our trees that we want to manage for. Now, if you scroll through the survey, if you zoom in onto your property, you can look at your own soil type. You can develop this for your own project, and this is just a good guide to use. Okay, I want to head back out of the web soil survey. For tree species selection, that soil has already given us, the plant hardiness zones. Our soil type has given us 2 general guides. We're going to zero in a little bit more, and we're going to select the best tree species to manage on your site based on soil, the drainage, etc. That also best fit with your management goals. Do you have a management plan? Are you going to use prescribed fire to manage the stand? Your criteria are going to help you determine what trees to plant. Based on that soil type that we just looked at for Candler fine sand and Alachua County for this example, we know loblolly pine, longleaf pine, sand pine are 3 that grow well. South Florida slash pine, and shortleaf pine. For the whole state of Florida, those 6 pine species are the most commonly grown, with slash pine, longleaf pine, loblolly pine, and sand pine being the 4 most common. Once you determine, what soil type does best, you decide which tree seedlings that you want to plant. We'll drill down a little bit more on our tree seedling selection, and we'll look at the choices the landowner will need to make. Species, we talked about slash pine, longleaf pine, sand pine. We'll also look at, we have different choices. We can go with containerized or bare root trees. We can look at our cost or our budget. We can look at the improved seed selection sources, the genetics of those tree seedlings. We have different generational selections we can use, whether it's first, second, third, 3.5 generation. We have different diseases such as fusarium rust or pitch canker that we know certain varieties of seedlings will be more resistant to, that we can try to pick from. We have strategies to reduce risk for insect resistance. We have some that do very well. If you want to plant cypress trees, for instance, they do better in places that may flood if they have flood tolerance. However, if it's like a longleaf pine does not tolerate flood, but on the opposite side, it tolerates fire. So picking up tree seedlings is important. And then if you are having a planting project, making sure those seedlings are available. So you want to order well in advance, sometimes 6 months to 1 year. We've determined we're going to go with our tree seedlings. Where do we get our tree seedlings from? For this area, we recommend selecting a tree that is close to your area as possible. A lot of times there's a theory that if you have a site and that site has, the same latitude, if it's 30 miles, that seedling grown in the climate similar to your soil type or even similar soil type to your project area may do better on your site. But we have Andrews Nursery. I won't go into more detail. That's our state of Florida nursery. We have Arborgen. They're based out of Georgia. We have Blanton's Container Nursery in Madison County, Florida. We have Dwight Stansel Farmer Nursery in Suwannee County, Florida. International Forestry Co. They're in Moultrie, Georgia. Superior Tree Seedlings. They're also there in Lee, Florida. Whitfield Farms and Nursery. They're located in Georgia. And there's potentially other nurseries on this list. For our tree seedling selection, I wanted to visit our Andrews Nursery website. This is, I'm going to post this link in the chat so you can revisit this at a different time. We have a lot of different places here that you can look. There's one link that says the Forest Service Vendor Database. If you click on this link, it will, I'm not going to click on it now, but it will take you to our online vendor database, and that will give you lists of nurseries. That will give you lists of tree planters. That will give you lists of site preparation contractors that can help you with their site prep. We also have lists of consulting foresters. The consulting forester can also help sometimes on larger acres. The consultants generally prefer 160 acres or more land. These are some of our tree seedlings we have for sale. We have an order seedlings online now. If I go to this inventory page, I click here to view current pricing and stock. This is just to give you an idea of how much do these trees cost. We have bare root trees and we have containerized trees for sale at Andrews Nursery. Pond cypress, bald cypress, the Forest Source Choctawhatchee sand pine, and our elite slash pine. A lot of these are seeds we're collecting seeds from state forests throughout the state of Florida. At Blackwater River State Forest, with the Coochie State Forest, sometimes we have Jennings, Goethe. We've got different state forests situated around the state, and based on the seed crop for the particular year, a lot of times we will gather seed based on those. When you go to purchase your seeds, your tree seedlings, you'll want to order in increments of 1,000 trees. You'll notice if you buy 1,000 trees of bare root slash pine, they're $70 per 1,000. If you buy 500 trees, it's $65 per 500. And if you buy 250, it's $60 per 250. So pricing a lot of times is based on buy 1,000. If you wanted to buy 10,000 tree seedlings, when you order, you're ordering in lots of 1,000. So you would order 10. Your quantity would be 10. A common mistake we've had people make is if they want to buy 10,000 trees, they'll put 10,000 seedlings on their order form, and all of a sudden they got a really, really expensive bill and over 1 million trees show up. Just remember that's 1,000 trees is the quantity, so that would be 10 for 10,000. Our containerized trees, we have longleaf, slash pine. We also have wiregrass plugs, but they're generally between $190 to $200 per 1,000. This is if you are picking these up at the nursery. We also have a delivery charge of $10 per 1,000 seedlings. We have a lot of different Florida Forest Service locations around the state. We have refrigerated trailers there, so a lot of times we will deliver a truck and we'll keep them stored for landowners to come pick up. For delivery, there is a schedule of throughout the state, depending on where you're at, Sewanee District Office or Waukesasa Forestry Center in Gainesville. We do have dates, so you can look through the website, you can pick the date. I'm scrolling pretty fast, but Indian Lake is in Marion. We do have drop off and pick off points, but just wanted to make you aware of that. Okay. When you order your seedlings, you want to place your order for tree seedlings early to get the best selection. For the state nursery, it's currently closed. We're going to open up the ordering July 1st, and you can order online. And typically, in like the last 3 years, 2 years, they have almost sold out of their stock within the first 2 days of opening up the website. Due to availability, some nurseries have sold out over 1 year in advance of planned plantings. Again, try to buy from a nursery in your region, latitude, or a local seed source if you can. If availability is a problem, Florida or Georgia tree seedlings generally do better. This slide is talking about southern pine productivity increases. Pine productivity has increased since 1940 with the use of new technologies and silvicultural management practices. This graph is pretty neat. This is in tons of wood per acre. In the 1940s, 45 to 50 tons of wood per acre harvest volume was common. We started planting trees in the 50s, and you notice that we bumped it up to where suddenly in that 60 tons of wood per acre, all the way up until the 2000s and 2010s. We're now pushing, the southern pine productivity. In some cases, they're harvesting over 200 tons of wood per acre. If they're looking at some of the genetics, the clonal and biotech seedlings, the tree improvement, they're doing weed control, fertilization, site prep. Depending on your management strategy, you can really grow a tree pretty fast. Should have talked a little bit about planting. You can zero in onto your particular site where you're going to plant trees. A lot of times you want to try to get that footprint of the project area as close as you can as you possibly can. If you had 40 acres, but you knew your house was there on site, you had power lines, you had roads that were not going to be planted, you may have a little wetland or a small pond off to the side that you're going to not going to plant. It may be that on this 40-acre block, you're only planting 33 acres. Getting that footprint as close as you can to actual footprint is good. Getting your trees ordered, if knowing how many trees you're going to plant per acre, and then getting that acres so that down to the tree, how many trees you're going to plant is important. Once you have that footprint established, you know how many trees you need to plant for that particular area, then site preparation is key to the successful establishment and early survival of tree seedlings. There's a lot of different ways that you can prepare a site for planting, and most all of them are going to use a combination of prescribed fire or prescribed burning of piles or acreage, mechanical methods where they're going in with a root rake or a bulldozer or a farm tractor or some type of mechanical method, a roller chopper, to reduce the vegetation on site and potentially reduce the woody debris, vegetative debris. and or herbicide treatments may be needed. Couple of just photos. There's a guy with a yellow Nomex shirt getting ready to do some prescribed burning, just getting this prepared for tree planting. On the mechanical means, depending on your soil type and the current land use that is there whenever you start your site preparation. If you had heavy grass or sod like Bahia, Bermuda grass, it may be that scalping is a site prep practice that you would need to do. There's a farm tractor on the right. You can see this 28 to 30-inch wide scalp strip where they peel back that sod layer from the grass. They expose a nice clean strip of bare soil. It's approximately 4 inches deep. And a lot of times the tree planted will be right along the scalp strip. If you have a hard pan, former ag field, it may be that ripping can provide deeper furrow to increase root growth. Or if it's flat woods, where the water capacity may be high at times, then you may want to consider bedding. I want to discuss herbicide. Herbicide is an important topic. I'm not going to go into herbicide that heavily for this presentation, other than to say a lot of times if it's contracted, you will need a state kind of a registered chemical applicator that can do this type of work on your property. You can do it yourself as a landowner, but it does require a degree of technical skill on application to make sure you're getting the chemical applied at the right per acre rate and the timing of year, whether or not you're using something like hexazinone, Velpar liquid, or triclopyr active ingredient in springtime, or you're using more of like a glyphosate foliar activated triclopyr, or Garlon 4 Roundup. Sometimes may not give you the best site prep, but it'll still give you a site prep chemical. But a lot of times they'll do tank mixes where they're using arsenal, they're using certain types of chemicals with active ingredients that are soil active. Getting those rates are critical. Imazapyr is one that's almost a soil sterilant for up to 9 months. So I would just ask you to refer to a consultant if you're not sure of what type of herbicide that you would need to be. And there are herbicide consultants and there are consulting foresters that can provide more information on site prep and post-plant. After the trees are planted, you can sometimes do a band spray or a broadcast spray of herbicides over the tops of the trees. There's nothing you can spray that's going to kill hardwoods after that tree's planted. It's not also going to kill the pine, but a lot of this is going to require a site-specific plan. It's going to require a site visit to your property, and there's a lot of information. I could go on for a long time about herbicide, but I'm not today. Once your site preparation is completed, and this planting density will need to be determined before you order your trees, is determine, how thick or thin do you want your trees to be planted on site. Higher stand density allows trees to kind of lean on each other and buffer each other in high wind situations. It also allows them to grow straighter, taller. And what they have are your competition as each tree seedling is growing next to its neighbor. As density increases, individual stem volume growth rates decrease. Tree density should be guided by your management objectives and resilience considerations. There has been several pulp and paper mills have shut down in the Perry area, and other wood markets shut down around the Lake Butler area. Pulpwood, some landowners, due to the lack of pulpwood markets in some areas, they are looking at their tree seedling spacing options, and they're going with fewer trees per acre than historically have been planted in the past. This is a neat chart. I put this thing together years ago. This is tree spacing, what we call the spacing of trees in the drill, and this is the row spacing between the distance between the rows. There's a picture over in the right. You can see this long straight green line. That's what I would call the drill. And then the distance between the tree rows. For instance, if this was a 12-foot row and we would put our trees 6 foot apart, then we would have 605 trees per acre. These areas in this darker shaded area have been common tree spacings historically, and that's 605 to 800 trees per acre range. We have seen a decrease in certain parts of Florida where they're now dropping 605 below. And I'll say anywhere from that 450 to 605 range, and even lower on occasion. I'm just trying to grow a larger diameter tree in a shorter amount of time, and they're trying to avoid that first pulpwood thinning, just giving themselves a little bit more time. But there's a lot of factors that you would want to think about while you're looking at planting your trees. This is just some of the options that are commonly used. We have our 33 acres. We decided that we're going to plant our 600 trees per acre. So we know we're going to need to order around 19,000 trees or so to get that area planted. A lot of times it's best to include a little bit more trees than what you think you're going to need. If you're going to order 19,000 trees, or you needed that many for your tree planting project, it may not hurt to order 21,000 trees, just to ensure that you have plenty whenever they arrive. The proper handling of seedlings during the preparation, once they're ordered, and then the transportation and storage in the field is important. This is a trailer load of trees that came from a nursery. These particular trees were containerized. They came from Blanton's containerized nursery in Madison, Florida. They were delivered to Alachua County, so they had an hour and a half drive in open air to get there. They are sealed in boxes a lot of times, but once you get onto the site, you try to find the shade tree. Even though they did a summer planting, these were planted in July of containerized trees. That heat can have adverse effects on your trees, so keeping them cool is important. A lot of times keep them refrigerated if possible until they're planted, between 85 to 95% humidity, and between 35 to 50 degrees, keeping them cool. Exposing those tree seedlings to extreme heat or freezing temperatures can kill the seedlings. This past year, we had a lot of landowners were planting trees, and we had 25 days below freezing. We had in Swanee County, I think it hit 17 degrees, like 2 days in a row, 3 days in a row. We had landowners that had delivered trees to their site. The cold weather snapped. They lost 50% of their planting just due to the freezing temperatures. The quality of seedlings at planting. If you are using a contractor, I have seen contractors would pick them up the day before. They have issues. They arrive at the site, and all of a sudden they sat on a trailer for 3 days before they've been planted. You hope that there's a shorter time frame from the time they're pulled from the cooler, being refrigerated, to the time they're planted, but sometimes delays happen. Trying to avoid that is good. When you open this box of seedlings and you start going through, you're going to notice 4 classes of seedlings in that box. You're going to have your dominant and co-dominant seedlings, and you're going to have your intermediate and suppressed seedlings. Some of your better tree planters and landowners, I've seen them go through the box and cull out their inferior seedlings that maybe they have a broken or crushed root or stem, maybe they're missing bark, maybe they have stripped roots or needles, might have stem swellings indicating fusiform rust, maybe there's other damage of some sort. But grading before planting to remove what one call the cull trees is a good practice. If you know you're planting that tree for an 18 to 25 year plus rotation, start with absolute best seedling that you can. There's different ways you can plant your trees once they've been delivered to the site. You can hand plant, where people will come in and they'll use specialized tree planting tools such as a hodad or a dibble bar or special tree planting shovels. And they do have specialized tools for both containerized trees and for bare root trees, where they walk across the road, they get their spacing, and maybe they're putting them 10 feet apart, 12 feet apart, and they're trying to maintain that spacing, and they're walking across. They'll get a pretty straight road. The other option is tractor planting. This was an older field. Here, a tractor is scalping the field first, and then the tree planter is coming back right after. There is an advantage if you are going to scalp. Whenever you scalp, there could be soil moisture that's in the ground. Once that scalp strip is opened up, you're suddenly allowing some of that soil moisture to escape if there's no rainfall. So some of your better tree planters will scalp and then plant as close to the same time frame as possible. Here, they were probably planting an hour apart or less. Whenever they decide to do the tree planting, being on site during the tree planting process is very important. You want to ensure that they're getting your trees planted in the right distance. In the past, I'll take a tape measure with me and I'm measuring the distance between the rows. I'm measuring the distance between the trees, and I'm adjusting the tree planters if they're hand planting. Hand planters are a little more difficult sometimes because you could have 15 guys show up at one time. They're covering 75 to 100 acres a day, so ensuring that clear instructions are received at the very beginning is important. The farm tractor, once he scalps that strip, if he's 2 feet over, it's hard to go back and correct that after the fact. So being on site to make sure that everything is moving along just like you want it, or if you're not there, using a consulting forester that can handle this project for you is important. If you have any concerns, you need to contact your planning contractor immediately. I've literally stopped guys in the field before while they're planting trees and said, hey, you're supposed to be 10 foot, 12 foot in the rows, and I'm getting 18 to 19 feet between the rows. You need to tighten your spacing up a little bit, or you're getting 12 feet apart in the drill. We're supposed to be 7. So just getting that in place is good. The other thing is there are some common tree planting mistakes and issues that you may see while the trees are planted. Some of the common ones on hand planting or machine planting is when a tree is pushed into the ground, you want to push it in and you want to pull it up just a little bit so that root system goes in the hole, and then it comes back up so you got a good straight root system. This photo on the left, the seedling was placed into the ground, and that's what we call a J-rooted seedling. You can see that main tap root versus pointing straight down like it should is suddenly pointed back up toward the sky, and that's a common. I give them a big red X if we found that as a common mistake on your newer planters. Your more experienced planters, not so much. The other one is L rooting. This is not as bad as J rooting, but on like a machine planter, a lot of times they drag that tree seedling while the tractor is moving. And when this happens, every single one of those roots will be pointed away from the tractor. You can determine which way the tractor is going. And that may affect that tree's ability to get roots straight down in the ground. It may affect that tree's support, and more so in times of drought or periods of dry weather is where this really shows up. Now, this far picture on the right is a perfect circle root system where a root had grown all the way around the inside of a 3-gallon pot. I took this photo of a tree planting project just because it's not something you see every day. But your containerized trees, if you leave those in the nursery situation too long, then I have seen entire shipments of tree seedlings be root bound. And root bound means that all those roots have completely encircled the container to a point where they're unable to get a straight root established, which causes issues later with planting. So if you are planting containerized trees, ensure they're not root bound before planting. And in the months following the tree planting projects, you want to routinely check on newly established trees. Once the trees are planted, you know your spacing is right. You know that your seedlings are arrived in good quality and you're happy with the tree planter. You went ahead and you've paid the tree planter, you've paid for the tree seedlings. You hope and pray we're going to get good rainfall. We're not going to experience a drought like the one that North Florida has just came out of. I have seen some issues with tree planting earlier this year because of drought. I've actually seen issues from wildfires, but monitor that first year. The first year is often critical for seedling establishment and survival. I was talking to a local nurseryman at a local nursery, and he mentioned that nursery, they're doing everything they can to grow a quality tree seedling. A lot of times they're set up on irrigation systems. They have frequent fertilization. They're getting weeds pulled manually from around them, or they're getting everything that tree needs, and they're trying to grow the perfect seedling. They pull that tree seedling out of the nursery, they ship it to your site, and all of a sudden, that tree seedling is just, it goes through a shock. It's a new environment. A lot of times you want to plant that tree during the best times of year. And if it's a bare root tree, that's going to be between Thanksgiving and Valentine's Day is sort of the old rule of thumb. I think a lot of people say December 1st until February the 28th is the window for bare root. With containerized tree seedlings, you've got a broader window, November to March. And like I said, if you have frequent rains, I've seen them planted June, July, August with success. But regardless of whenever you plant the trees, keep in mind that bare root trees will have a very, very narrower window than containerized, and they are more soil dependent. You want to ensure you have adequate rainfall, good soil moisture, look at freezing temperatures that may be coming, and try to time your planting with local weather events just to ensure you have a successful project. Once that tree is planted, there could be a number of issues, and I included just a couple of exotic and invasive plant infestations. Coden grass in Marion County, I've seen them just completely take over a small pine plantation. I've seen other hairy indigo in Swanee County and old farm fields. You could get excessive vegetation. You could get a lot of oaks come back if it's a clear-cut site and site preparation was inadequate. You could see a whole lot of tree competition that's competing against that new pine seedling you just put in the ground. I've seen pest outbreaks, pitch-eating weevils, paleys, weevils. If you do have a harvest, there's a recommended minimum of 9 months from the time the trees are harvested to the time you replant them back. Some of your natural fungi that move in, they're going to decompose those older tree roots that are in the ground. I have seen issues where weevils, certain things are trying to decompose that clear-cut tree's root system. Suddenly it's trying to move to your newly planted tree seedling. So leaving that 9 months window minimum with one cold snap in between the time the trees are harvested to the time the trees are planted is important. Once they're planted, pine webworm, titmoth, pine sawfly, different types of borers, you get a whole host of potential insects that could come in that are going to try to attack that tree. And we also have animals. I've seen deer, they like to come along and nip the tops of the buds off the trees. I've seen feral hogs devour the whole root system of the tree, rabbits, beavers. There's a lot of different types of animals that may suddenly take an interest in your tree because it's in their new environment. Yellow-bellied sapsuckers, I put that one in there. A lot of times it's little older trees, your woodpeckers will move in, but there's also, forest disease outbreaks we mentioned, severe drought. If we don't get rain after that tree's planted, it could have consequences that result in mortality of that tree. Flooding, wildfires, hurricanes, tropical storms, adjacent landowner encroachments, herbicide drift. If your neighbor suddenly decides they want to spray a bunch of herbicide and it becomes airborne when it volatilizes and lands on your trees, I've seen that. The monitoring should really never stop. I wanted to talk a little bit about state and federal cost share programs. We have state programs, we have federal programs. When I say federal, through USDA, they have the Farm Service Agency and they have Natural Resource Conservation Service. A lot of times you'll want to go in ahead of time, you'll want to complete your farm records. They'll assign you a tract number and a farm number for each parcel that you have that has a separate tax identification number. And then once that's in place, there could be a program that you qualify for that would help you with the reforestation. Some of the common ones that have occurred in the last short time to current time are the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, what we call EQIP, the Conservation Reserve Program, if it's older agricultural land. And when I say agricultural land, it's going to have some sort of agricultural history. I think it's 3 of the last 5 years or 5 of the last 7 years. You'll want to talk with your local USDA folks. They can help you determine what you may or may not qualify for or what program signups are currently occurring. If you had hurricane damage associated with Idalia, Francis, there's been a lot of hurricanes, the Emergency Forest Recovery Program, Helene, there's a lot of different, Milton, but some of these guys here can, but that program may offer assistance. Through the Florida Forest Service, 2 they're commonly offered each year are the Future Forests of Florida program, we call FFFP, or the Southern Pine Beetle Prevention Program. Why these programs work, a lot of times, and we also have the Restore program and the block grant associated. Restore is if you're in a watershed that connects to the Gulf, mainly along the Apalachicola River or the Swanee River, there is some funding tied to the BP oil spill that will help with the environmental restoration. So we do have potential dollars for that. You'll need to check with your local county forester, and they can help you as far as the Department of Agriculture, the FDACs, Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services program or the Florida Forest Service program. A lot of these are cost share programs, meaning you have to spend 100% of the money up front, and then you get a percentage of that back. And based on the program, that could be 50%, that could be 75%. But it does have some guidelines you have to follow. A lot of those guidelines, you have to apply for the program, you wait for your approval. Once you're approved, then you're eligible for the funding. They'll assign you a contract, and that can help. The professional resources, talk to your local county forester. The Fish and Wildlife Commission has wildlife biologists that can help. Florida Forestry Association has members that can help. There's a link. And then the consulting foresters. After your trees are planted, you may look into the stewardship program or the tree farm program. The stewardship program will offer you a written forest management plan at no cost. The tree farm program in the past is kind of tied in the stewardship program. So those are two different programs that you could go. Best advice you should take from this webinar is get a written forest management plan. They'll be specific to your property. They'll have a map, they'll have the acres, they'll have a lot of good information in there. One important document referenced in this presentation is called Planting Southern Pines in Florida. Chris Demers helped with this particular paper along with Lisa Lewis and Mike Andrew. And a lot of the same information that I've went over today, you'll be able to see this same information repeated in this document. And the link is there. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, you can use the question and answer function for questions.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Great presentation. Yeah, we've got plenty of time. We're about a few minutes here for questions, but we can stay over if we want to, or if needed, if you've got questions. I do want to encourage you, if you can share, stop sharing, Brian. I'm going to go to my screen. I'm going to share the our survey link for people to fill out before they head out. Some are already dropping off. If you're still with us, please go to that QR code scan and fill out a short evaluation. I'm also going to email this link out to everybody that was participating today, so you have an opportunity to fill out that quick evaluation so we can get your feedback on the webinar. The presentation materials, Brian's presentation that he just went through, is at that link on our events page. And that can be found directly on our homepage, and included in that set of links is his PowerPoint presentation, the PDF version of it, that Planting Southern Pines publication, the USDA web soil survey site, the Florida Forest Service vendor database, where you can find a contractor or a consulting forester or a number of different private enterprises that are out there that are available to assist with your forest management, and then Andrew's Nursery link, where you can look at their product availability, pricing, ordering, and those details. All right. Looks like we might have a chat. All right, we got a thank you there. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate you. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. You know what? I'm going to put the link in the chat for the survey, I believe. I just put the evaluation link in the chat so you can access that. I'm going to go ahead and go through the rest of my concluding slides here. Again, that's the homepage, and there's the link circled there in red where you can find the materials page for 2026 events. I want to thank all of our partners and supporters that work with us. Some of these provide financial support. The Florida Forest Service is a large financial supporter of our program each year. Really appreciate their support, their cooperation, and all of our activities throughout the year. Fish and Wildlife Commission, the landowner assistance biologists are out there to help out with your wildlife type of objectives. They have a lot of great services and opportunities for landowners each year. They cooperate with us, on a lot of things throughout the year. Our program is really a one-stop shop. Once you meet up with any of these partners, we've tried to get it so once you meet up with one of these partners, they can connect you to others that are in our partnership that can help you with your management. So it's one thing we've got going in Florida is a really good partnership and coordination amongst all the folks that are trying to help private landowners with land management. Brian mentioned the tree farm program. We also get support from the Sustainable Forestry Implementation Committee, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, their partners program, and of course the Florida Forestry Association is always a great partner in all of our activities. I want to thank you all for joining us. Looks like there's a few people still on. Yeah. Again, I encourage you to fill out that evaluation for the program today. And if you have any further questions about anything we've discussed today, drop us a line. We're happy to help you out anytime. And if you don't receive our Land Steward email updates, you can sign up for that in that evaluation form. So with that, I want to thank you, Brian, for presenting today. You did a great job, and thank you all for joining us. And that concludes our webinar for today. Brian, Brian, go ahead and stay on. I'm gonna end the event. And